This one's for anyone who's looking for their first real estate deal and is using phone number contact information as your primary way of getting in touch with property owners. I've actually included a talk that I gave to the nation's largest house flippers. You have to be doing over 100 flips per year to be in this group. I recorded the live so that you could see how we help them increase the conversations they're having by 50%, which can help you get your first deal even faster. This is the podcast for 10xing your income, replacing your W-2 through wholesaling real estate, a strategy where you make a finder's fee for finding a rundown house and then reselling it to your network of buyers, and you make a finder's fee while they close on it with cash, building your skills, finding great deals, and building up your cash reserves so that you can then go on and do other things like build a rental portfolio. My name's David Lecko. I'm the co-host of the podcast. I founded DealMachine 8 years ago, which is a marketing tool for house flippers that's helped people close over 10,000 deals in all 50 states. Thanks, Leon. And everybody, this one's for anyone who's using skip tracing as part of their acquisition strategy for cold calling or text messaging. It's also for anybody who's using direct mail, getting returned mail, and wanting to find those people who are hard to find. We're with a company called DealMachine that's been around for 8 years. We're a marketing tool for house flippers. We started off as a driving for dollars tool and have evolved into a full data provider that combines property data and person data in a unique way to give you guys more of those insights and ability to have more connections with sellers than any of your competitors can or what you may be doing currently now. So my name's David Lecko. I'm the co-founder of DealMachine and CEO. So by quick show of hands, we're going to talk about the private investigator tool. How many of you guys actually skip trace as part of your business and acquisition strategy? All right, leave your hand up if you skip trace more than 10,000 leads per month. How about 30,000 leads? Anybody doing up to 100,000 leads per month? I see a couple in the back here. That's awesome. So how many of you guys would prefer that your skip tracing was more accurate? All of the hands that went up initially also went up now. Yeah, so that's exactly what I expected. Sometimes you feel like a private investigator trying to find even the right person. If you've been skip tracing, like probably 70% of you in the room have as part of your business, you're definitely not going to be surprised to know that 33% of skip trace data is not matching to the right person who owns the home or has no match at all. And that's actually pretty generous, I would say. There's even more than that doesn't get matched with a lot of skip tracing techniques out there, is what I noticed, right? So we have been a traditional skip tracing provider, I would say, as for 8 years, the last 8 years, right? Where we take a data provider that sells us hits on a property for 5 cents, right? And then you could get that through our platform for 7 cents. I mean, that's pretty much standard throughout the whole industry how it works. This past November, we thought there's got to be a better way because it's just so bad and everyone just deals with the accuracy that's out there. And so we have been able to put together a list of everyone in the entire country, their phone number, how old they are, their current address, where they're registered utilities, their previous address, and it's all inside of our database. So we no longer have to pay transactionally to show you data. So that is like a very significant change because, well, then we're not going to show you data if it's not 100% sure that that's the actual person. We can pair it with properties, etc. And one thing that I noticed, though, was if my own properties, they didn't actually show up, and we'll get into why. Properties that are corporate are also a problem, right? So even though we kind of made that leap in November, and it's a huge reason why we've been able to grow 44% year to date so far, the corporate owners, like they still weren't solved. People would typically have to go to a third website, like Open Corporates is a great one. Your Secretary of State could be another one to find who are the officers of those counties, but still not ideal when you've got to pull up 3 different tools. So that was something we noticed. So my own properties, I've done about 19 BRRRR strategy deals where you go off market, you kind of recycle your money. I bought those over the last 8 years as well as an investor. I've moved 5 times in the last year. So as I was buying the properties, the tax address is where I lived. But then I looked back, I live in Austin, Texas now. None of my properties have the current address where my utilities are registered. So those weren't showing up with our new scheme of matching that person and property data. So that was like a little indicator of, I think we could maybe close the gap. We could make this even better. And obviously, I mean, I was like, well, why is skip tracing so bad? And I kind of got into, that's what started what we developed last November with having every person's name in our database so that we could do that matching for you. And then again, people don't move and they don't update their addresses. So that's one reason why the data is inaccurate. And many of you, you may know Ryan Haywood is a CG Select member. He's not in the Premier group yet, but he's been somebody who's utilized DealMachine since 2019, and just from doing 400 deals since then, like we become good friends. His properties, his 33 rentals in St. Joseph, Missouri, same issue, right? He had moved one time and all of his mailing addresses were not updated, because when you own a rental property, you don't need to update the mailing address because your taxes are paid by your mortgage company automatically, or you've got that on auto pay. There's no real reason to go update all those properties. So, the data providers and us too previously were incentivized to sell you whatever they think is the closest match. And even if it's not right, they still want to give you that info, which is good. But they were incentivized to sell you just close enough type data. And that's why a lot of it's not accurate. And that's just the business model that they followed. Yeah. So in last November, we had that new strategy. We call it unlimited contact info. And we realized 33% of the properties didn't match. They weren't showing a skip trace result. And again, huge reason for that was we were matching it on the utility address and the county mailing address. If those matched, we knew for sure that was the owner. We weren't incentivized to show you data that we weren't 100% sure about, so we would just show nothing. And people really liked that our data was accurate. So now we're talking about closing that 33% gap where those properties weren't showing any matches. We have the whole list of everybody in the United States. So we thought if we could show you everyone with that owner's name in the United States, and you could see that all on one screen with all of their phone numbers, I mean, that would close the gap. There's actually, Leon was asking me, so like, who wouldn't this work for? Well, it wouldn't work in the rare case where the owner had misspelled their name on the deed of the house. Like, that could happen. It has happened, but that's a rare instance where this wouldn't look. Otherwise, you're looking at a comprehensive list of everyone in the United States. And so if we can close that 33% gap, which I believe we have, that means we're 50% more accurate than any other option you have out there for finding skip trace data. So can I show you guys how it works? All right. So you could see every person in the U.S. with the same name as the property owner. So for me, there's 2 David Leckos in the country. And so both of them showed up. One lived in Austin, Texas. The other one lived in San Jose, California. So it's not really clear which one is the owner of these Indianapolis properties until you open my contact card. I have a St. Louis phone number that's kind of closer to Indianapolis, but then you could see my previous address was in Indianapolis. The other one just lived in California his whole life, no other Midwest history. So you could easily select that I'm and link me to that property owner. But if you weren't sure, you can just call both. DealMachine listeners, I'm wearing my turtleneck not because it's Steve Jobs' birthday, not because Apple just announced they're integrating AI into their phones. Nope, none of that. It's because we're coming up on DealMachine Unveiled, which is our special live presentation where we're unveiling the latest innovation in real estate technology. Last November, we had an Unveiled event, and we broke down the house with unlimited skip tracing, which also improved, with our private investigator tool, the accuracy of your skip tracing results by 50%, meaning if you don't get data, you can actually see every person with that homeowner's name all in one spot, in one place. There's no other place you can get that. So come July 1st, reserve your spot, get notified, be among the first to see what's coming next for the real estate industry. The URL, by the way, is DealMachine.com/unveiled. You'll have a leg up on your competition because, like I said, most of the skip trace, in our history of skip tracing, before we even did all this, we would always run a test. We would always, on a yearly basis, just want to benchmark ourselves against what else was available on the market. So the way we'd run the test is we'd pull 100 properties from a smattering around the country. We'd skip trace the same properties with us and the top other 4 or 5 providers that you could think of. And then I would have the same team member call all of the results, and we would calculate the right party contact. So that would be either a voicemail that indicated, yeah, they were the same person that owned the property that we were trying to call, or an actual answer that confirmed that they were the person that they would actually call. So I know that a lot of the skip tracing results out there, they are just not, they're missing out on at least 33% of the properties that you're actually paying for to get data. So by closing that 33% gap, 50% more accuracy, 50% more conversations, which should result in how many more deals? More. 50. It should be if the same close rate. So that's why these leads are gold, right? So you have access to data that others in your market don't. So you open a property, there's a little magnifying glass and a person on the mobile app or the computer, and that shows you every Denise Parker in the country. Now, they are ordered by the most likely one. So this property was in Belton, Texas. This top Denise Parker is 59 years old, has a Belton, Texas address. That's why she's listed top. But in case that's not the right one, there's another one in New Braunfels, Corpus Christi, San Antonio, right? So it's showing you in the order that we think it's the most likely. Pretty much every Denise has 2 phone numbers. You can just call through if you weren't sure and you need to verify. Let's look at corporate owner. So we're able to pull in actually the open corporate's data to find out a corporate-owned property to see that the associated officers of this property is Mitchell Newby. So now we're going to show you every Mitchell Newby in the country. So again, top one is 24 years old. Next one's 41 years old. But the top one's in Texas. This property I pulled was in Texas. So that's very common. Definitely probably going to be the top one, right? But you could call through the list of all the Mitchell Newbys in order that we think they would be. And then back to Denise Parker. Let's say she's deceased, right? That's like a big indicator that Uncle Carl, when we're talking with him, is important when he's looking through data. Are they dead or not? So you know if you can look at the family or not. And so although we don't have a deceased indicator on here yet, Uncle Carl has requested it very smartly. I did want to show that you can see Denise Parker's 3 related contacts, which are family members or cohabitants of that house. And so that's going to be down there. You can see there's 3 dots. You could scroll through 3 of them. And then you could even open up Brittany Parker's contact card to get her address, her previous address, how old she is, how much money she makes, and what her phone numbers and emails are too. So that's how the family member side of it works, which is especially helpful in the case that somebody's passed away. I wanted to share it. This was a very unexpected use as we were getting into making the skip tracing data better and pairing it with property owner data. This was an on-market deal that I had. You'd never think you'd need this in an on-market transaction. But this past year, I wanted to try something new for my own investing. I sent out 500 offers in Indianapolis to properties that were 100 days old, listed on the market, just hadn't sold yet. I sent 70% offers to all of those property owners through my real estate agent. This one ended up contacting us back. I did 7 deals actually from that effort, by the way, in case you're curious. I use a totally different software, but a Zoom Offers, which is a number. I think Corey's a member of CG. That's where I heard about it. So anyway, great software. This deal was falling apart because I was closing a deal. I should have used Renovo, but at first I was using some other company, and they were like, hey, the air conditioner's missing. So on closing day, they didn't let me close. And the agents had like a bit of like a cat fight, like a she said type scenario, and they stopped talking to each other. So the closing day came and passed. I was supposed to get the AC installed by closing day so the lender could close, but they wouldn't close because it wasn't livable without an AC. And that's why I actually couldn't close on this deal, but I couldn't figure out how to solve it either because the agents weren't responding to each other. So my agent said, listen, I can't give you the contact info of this owner because that would be a violation of our representation agreement. But she said, you're a smart guy. Why don't you look up this guy's number and contact him yourself, see if you can smooth it out. So there ended up being a few Willies with, I forget the last name, on this property at 13th Street in Indianapolis. Called the first one. It was him. He knew about the deal. He was frustrated. He said, well, your agent said you guys could close without the AC. I was like, I think that might be a miscommunication. Let's put that all aside. Can I just close cash on this, but can you give me a credit for the AC? Then I can get the AC installed and refinance with Renovo. Very smooth, by the way. I really liked working with Renovo, as I've tried a few other lenders, and I will say very, very easy to use. So anyway, we got the deal done, and I never would have expected that. I mean, I had this at my disposal, thankfully, just to look up every Willie, whatever his last name was, in the country to find this guy's contact info. But really happy that we got that deal. It ended up being a 1% rule. It's worth $160,000 and rents for $1,600 a month. So I was really happy with that in Indianapolis. So anyway, so I wanted to share this unexpected way I was able to utilize, but also in the grand scheme of things, how this can help you guys close the gap. Yeah, and just to alleviate any concerns about, well, this is powerful, does it cost a lot? You can use that private investigator tool unlimited times for $99, I think $99 a month. And there's a 7-day trial, so it's like not a big deal for anyone in this room. It's like lunch. So anyway, just wanted to share that with you guys and provide you a really powerful tool for just kind of like a no-brainer option to help you guys out.
Thanks for listening to the DealMachine Real Estate Investing Podcast. Please leave us a review and follow along wherever you're listening to your podcast.